Here we go. All right, everybody, stacks back the numbers. Welcome back. And a company that we just looked at around $1 a share. I said, in my opinion, the juice might be worth the squeeze at around that dollar level. And we spoke about how the market cap was sub 20 million. And we spoke about how they brought their Liberty system to the FDA seeking approval. And that's why I kind of mention again, I know it's kind of hindsight just over the last couple of days. I honestly didn't expect it to pop like this, but I did mention that in my opinion, this company could be setting themselves up for a good 2025, and you may start to see funds flow into this stock beginning in the new year. And I think that's basically what we've been seeing here. So, Microbot Medical Incorporated, ticker symbol MBOT, listed here on the NASDAQ, and I'm just pulling up. Last video was, about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, back on December 16th. So let's take a look. And the 16th, yep, we were nice and flat at about $1 a share. I spoke about the potential tightening, I believe, on the Bollinger Bands. Yep, look at how tight it was right around the time we were looking at that, the 16th, and look, it was just hanging out at the moving average. Look at that tightening, and then boom, we ended up having to break up. Now again, I speak about the tightening in the past too, and you can see we tightened here and we dropped, right? And then we kind of came back. Look, we had like the tightening here, we had a little pop back to the moving average, but we were just hanging out, consistently rejecting the 200-day moving average. This is the daily chart. We were rejecting the 200-day moving average because there really wasn't much taking place. And that's what I mean. That's why now, with the news coming out just over the last week or so, and we can see Microbot Medical concludes 2024 by achieving key milestones culminating in FDA submission for the commercialization of Liberty. Again, this is going to be essentially a surgical robotic machine that basically does the, I don't want to say does the surgeon's job for him, because again, we when we first looked at the stock, if you go to their website, you can see you kind of sit there with your little Sega Game Gear and you just kind of control it. Let me see if I can pull that up for you real quick, just to reiterate what's going on. Yeah, breaking news. See, right when you go to the website, they talk about, there you go, they talk about the FDA, and here you can see, look, basically it looks like a Sega Game Gear to me, in my opinion. Maybe a PSP for all you younger kids out there. But Microbot absolutely exploding. Look at this, closing at 214, up exactly a point today, almost 88% on the day, and then continuing after hours. I even mentioned that, in my opinion, looked like here we had the spike and then we had the consolidation. I mentioned this kind of looked like a bull flag in the Discord, and then boom, we had the pop up to 314 it hits. Again, this was $1 just about 2 weeks ago and change. We can see the stock hit 314 after hours and now pulled back to below this trend line here of 264, 265, but it looks like it still wants to go up, and we're making these higher highs and these higher lows. So the word might be out, and even though we still have some time, and this could be just a quick spike up, and we could sell this back to the low ones over the next couple of days, absolutely, because we still have to wait for approval from the FDA and whatnot. But again, market cap right now, 36 million. I mean, we're valuing companies, again, you guys, anything with space, any company that used to make batteries, any stock that was involved in EVs, we exploded all of these companies up. Look at quantum computing. The companies themselves came out and said, yeah, listen, we appreciate the attention and this could be huge, but I still think we're a couple of years away. And all of those quantum stocks went from whatever 80 cents to freaking $18. Look at something like Rigetti. But again, technically, they're not doing that business yet. But we're throwing these valuations on these stocks at like, 2.5 billion, 6 billion, 11 billion, like it's nothing. So if I tell you that we have a potential, surgical robotic machine that's going to come in and conduct, cardiovascular surgery and reduce the amount of potential, malpractice suits, but of course, overall could increase the efficiency, the success rate of the actual surgeries themselves. Let's just say hypothetically, it's like 72%. What if this could bring it up to 87%, 92% success rate or something like that, right? So that's why I said, in my opinion, with all of the advancements that we're seeing in technology across the board, I'm talking in hardware as well, not just software things like voice AI, like SoundHound, But in hardware as well, this is why I was saying, in my opinion, I think something like MBOT could have a very stellar breakout 2025. And again, even after this explosion from $1 to whatever, $3, it's at 2.5 now, you may feel like you missed the boat. And that's why I'm saying if you buy now and it drops down a point or two, well, no, not a point or two, but, a point and a half back to where it started. In my opinion, you can't get that upset. But also, $36 million market cap, right? And we crunched the numbers last time, and I really don't remember what we had, but let me take a look here. Paying the debt down again. Look, it was $250,000 this quarter last year, and now we're down at less than 100,000. The free cash flow did drop back more negative, and the cash on hand right now is about $500,000. We could potentially see an offering if they need some cash, but I don't know if they will. But then again, I know they did it last time. Someone in the Discord mentioned that. They bought it at around $1, and it spiked up to whatever, like 180 on the last news that came out, I think, on the positive data that came out of that clinical trial. And, they took the money and ran. And then MBOT did an offering when the stock price was higher, and it sold off and dropped back down basically to where it started. So that was a good in and out play. So that's why something like this, if you want to play it in and out, understandable. But again, in my opinion, I think this could be huge. And, I just don't want to hear the stories of, oh, I bought it at 92 cents. I sold it here at $2, and then news came out. Now it's at $5. I could have made so much more, right? We know those stories come out. And that's why I'm saying even bringing this market cap back up to 100 million, in my eyes, isn't too crazy for what they could potentially bring to the table. And that would be roughly a 200% move from today's valuation, which, as you see, would bring us to like $6 and change. So, in my opinion, I do think there's still potential there. But again, I just remind you, when they last had the explosion, they did technically come out and do a small offering. So, this move might be short-lived. But my original theory of this could be groundbreaking and the players might position themselves into this going into the new year for 25, banking on the fact that, FDA approval is coming and more positive catalysts are coming out. So that, in my opinion, is what I think is going on. But yeah, technically not a lot of cash on hand. Cash outweighing debt by about 400,000 in change. Equity dropping. If we add that 400,000, that brings us to about 4.2 million, quote unquote, fair value. And of course, we're operating at a loss. And we could see last year, right, we technically lost about 10 million in change. So the quote unquote fair value of this business is negative, right? However, if you recall, when we crunched the numbers in the fundamentals, even on something like Dell, which was recently getting a lot of attention, Dell technically had horrendous fundamentals and I believe a negative book value. So that's why, again, the numbers can only take you so far, which is why I like to look at a little bit of everything. But again, in my opinion, I just think the overall story and I guess the hype, if you will, behind something like MBOT, I think, in my opinion, I give it, a 70-80% chance to continue to climb from these levels as opposed to drop back down and remain completely quiet. So if it does drop back down to 170 or something like that, it's kind of understandable because it was a pretty big swing. So I can understand if the traders popped in, popped out real quick. But also at the same time, again, if it does drop and then bounce and continue to have a good year, I personally wouldn't be surprised. But that's just me. But after hours, yep, getting to 314, currently sitting at 257. And short float, according to FinViz, sitting at about 3.5%. So that's why, in my opinion, this is accumulation volume, right? Average volume, 1.3 million shares. Today, 25.3 million shares. So we're talking 20x average volume. storming into the stock. And I understand people are going to say, oh, key levels like this, 170, it got above, so the algorithms kicked in. Yeah, I understand. Understandable. But again, in my opinion, the big, long-term, broad picture, that's what I was always trying to bring to everyone's attention the couple of times I looked at this stock. And I love that people were commenting saying, I'm surprised no one else is talking about this. I never heard about this stock. Why isn't something like this trending? And what do I always say? In my opinion, those are the ones you want, the ones that are flying underneath the radar, continuing tightness in the Bollinger Bands, and then having breakouts from $1 up to $2 on FDA news, from a breakout of $1 up to over $3 technically today after hours, on the hype going into 25, on the supposed headline potentially coming of FDA approval. RSI a little overextended now, though, on the daily, up to 91 1/3, so probably going to start pulling back, around that 160, 150 level. You can see top Bollinger Band spiked up when you have the big move. I mentioned the Bollinger Bands trumpet up and down, and you can see we curled straight up in beeline. Look at that top Bollinger Band, 158. So a pullback, right? What was I saying before? Pull back to like 160, 170 wouldn't be crazy to me. So you can see where I get these potential predictions from. Switching over here to the weekly, we can see we're overextended on the weekly time frame as well, technically overbought above that 70 benchmark, sitting at about 83. However, we have seen crazier things, especially with the whole quote-unquote space bra breakout on Reddit of things like ASTS, Rocket Lab, and every single company connected to space, whether they're generating revenue or not. So that's why, again, I just remind everyone, something gets trending on Reddit, like an ASTS, technically isn't bringing in revenue, took the market cap up to $7 billion and change. So something like this that could really potentially positively impact the medical industry and help us perform more efficient, successful surgeries, I think, again, breaking it up to 100 million and change market cap really isn't asking for too much. And of course, if it runs up to 800 million or $1 billion, once it starts to get trending and the kids find out about it and hear about it late, right? The Johnny-come-latelys, as we call them, then of course, sky's going to be the limit. But, MACD's technically spiked straight up with the RSI, which is why, again, we could potentially have some good news coming. Some people may know some things behind the scene, but in my opinion, it might cool down for at least a day or two before it rockets back up. But I know a lot of people were commenting that it sounded good. They took a shot. They started buying shares at $1. Other people commented from the first time we looked at it, like a year ago. And they were saying, listen, I understand. Thanks for laying out all the risks. Thanks for explaining the whole situation to me. This could be huge, but it is kind of speculative. It's $1 a share. I understand this is a long-term hold. I might be in this for 1, 2, 3 years before I start to hear some positive headlines, as you're seeing now. But, I think it's worth it, so I'm grabbing some shares. And I have people now in the Discord. Shout out to the crew in the Discord again. I will drop a fresh Discord link as per request in the comments section. That's free for you guys to join. But again, I just love the support and the interaction that I'm seeing from the community, not only on YouTube but in Discord as well. I mean, I really love each and every one of you, and you make it much more exciting. And I was always, as you see, kind of decent at making a lot of these calls. And now that, the word is slowly spreading, and I'm potentially helping out a couple of people, and you guys more times than not come back and say, hey, listen, great call, appreciate your insight, I made a couple of bucks. So the fact that most of the time everyone is kind of making out better than losing is obviously, it really helps out my mental state. I just want to say that and be honest. I'm really, really glad that a lot of these calls are working out for the better for a lot of you, because that's why I made the channel. But let's check the pivot points real quick. I'll let you go. Pivot points. And again, of course, people, anytime I do a video, they're going to ask, oh, how much did you own? I bet you made out like crazy. No, I did not have a position in MBOT. Again, the money is slowly trickling in. So as I have a few bucks, I'm moving it over. And as I disclosed, I grabbed, a handful of shares of things like Honest. I do technically still have my STEM position. I bought those shares back at $2. So, even on the recent news, I'm still down big. But as I always said, as I get the money and as I'm able to slowly move it over, I'm going to always put my money where my mouth is. And, show that integrity, I guess, if you will, and not just pump, these no-name stocks like a lot of other people do who will remain nameless. But looking at the pivot points, you can see we had a pivot point here on the weekly of 236. Technically, we're well above that. Got, again, above 3, and we're holding above 236. And on the daily, obviously, we broke out above every single resistance level. Top one was $1.54. Even this previous resistance back here, going back to the month of July, looks like it's at about $1.91. Stock well above $2. Again, still holding. So, in my opinion, we might be off to the races, and that's why I'm saying now with this one moving so much from just $1 up to these, 3+ levels and hitting new highs, probably getting on everyone's radar now, trending. Now they're probably looking into it. They're going to do some research over the weekend. They're probably, in my eyes, going to wait for his sell-off to sub $2, and then they're going to take the position themselves, right? So that's why, in my opinion, it could remain volatile, of course, just because of the type of company and the state it's in financially. But the vibe, if you will, behind the situation, that's why I think that even if we do step down, the volume, the incoming volume of the story going into 25, I think that's what's going to help kind of buoy the value and keep it from tanking back down. And again, we can turn around in a couple of months. All of a sudden, the stock's at like $7. All of a sudden, the stock's at $9. I'm not saying it is going to happen. I'm saying it could happen if the social media floodgates open. Because even when I tweet about this, on X and stuff, like no one responds. It doesn't get any views. The tweet doesn't get any likes, right? So that's what I mean. This is still technically a symbol that no one's watching, no one's aware of. So just keep that in mind as well. But that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover on MBOT. And of course, as we keep seeing big moves, and hopefully as news keeps coming out in the company's favor, I'll jump on, I'll do a quick update for you. But shout out to everyone who jumped in a while back when we first looked at it. Shout out to anyone who saw interest when we recently did the video back on the 16th, back here. And you took a shot. Obviously, you're up well over 100% now. So congratulations to all you shareholders. And let's hope the company's really able to knock one out of the park here for 25. And I'll end it there. Once again, this is Stocks by the Numbers. I want to thank you for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please drop it down in the comments section. I'm usually pretty quick to reply. Thumbs up algorithm helps me get more eyes on the channel. And of course, subscribe to the channel. That is our handshake agreement. That is how you help me help you. But more importantly, moving forward, like I always say, I understand that markets are rocky, they're volatile, and they are very uncertain. So I want to wish all of you success. I hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. Thank you for your time. Have a good weekend.